Welcome back to Round 1, the series where we play just the beginning of a game to give you a taste of what it's like. In today's episode, we'll be playing Court of the Dead Mourners Call, a competitive 2 to 4 player area control game from Project Raygun and Sideshow Collectibles. In this game, players will represent mourners, who are an allegiant of death himself, all of which are dedicated to pursuing and accomplishing his noble goal of ending the war in the Underworld between heaven and hell and restoring balance to the universe. Players will strategically manipulate their influence amongst the 3 different factions of bone, flesh, and spirit, while also attempting to complete their own ulterior motives. You'll see every move and decision that we make, and after the dust settles, join us as we discuss the full experience to see who earned death's favor and a place amongst the elite of the Underworld.
Welcome back to Round 1. Tonight we have Court of the Dead Mourners Call. This is from Sideshow Collectibles and Project Raygun, and it's a area control game. It's got a lot of things going on, but if you've never seen these collectibles from Sideshow Collectibles, they make some really great statues, usually in other properties like Marvel, Star Wars, things like that, but this is their own original IP.
That's right. We have Ryan, myself, David, and guest Nate. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So we have basically done the setup for you, but we'll walk you through all the different components before we get into the actual gameplay. First, the story.
Yes.
So the idea of the theme behind it is that heaven and hell are locked in this eternal ongoing combat, and death himself sees no end to it, so he creates his own Court of the Dead, which are his generals. And all these generals have mourners, which is what we represent in the game. We're trying to put an end to this eternal war.
Yeah, we're caught in the middle.
Right. The game can last an X number of rounds, typically between 3 and 4 rounds. The game will end once all the Unity tokens are collected by the players. These are the victory points that you're going to be getting at the end of the game in conjunction with some other type of things that you're going to be collecting points for. The number of Unity tokens is dependent upon the number of players. In a 4-player game, we have 35 that are possible to grab. The game board itself is a representation of hell itself. All these are different locations in which we can send our guild members out to be able to collect different rewards from controlling those areas. So it is an area control game as well. Also, there's 2 unique tracks on the side. It is not a cooperative game. However, we are trying to balance this war out. If we get too progressively far up these tracks, everybody gets penalized from them. One of them is the Celestial track, and one of them is the Dread Script track. There's another portion of area control in the game, and that's across the bottom called the Underworld Guilds. These represent the 3 different factions, which are bone, spirit, and flesh, and the 6 different types of figures in the game. So each of these different factions has 2 different types of figures. So that's an area control portion as well. So we're trying to have the most influence in these areas.
Yeah, what's really cool about that is as you recruit from these different factions, and you can recruit from all of them, even though you'll be allied with one of them, every time you do so, you're going to increase your presence in those tracks.
Right. There is a Wallows deck. These are once per round cards that you're trying to complete by the end of that round. There's ways to get more of these. However, you're going to draw 1 of these per round. Basically, there are ways to be able to go to specific areas, have control in those areas, or have combat in those areas with the creatures of the Underworld.
Yeah, they add a lot of narrative flavor, in my opinion. You have missions you can go on. You can actually go to a certain place and have a battle with someone, or just objectives where you need some presence in these 3 territories and you're able to get the reward.
They do give you a lot of direction in a game
Yes.
that has so many options. It kind of focuses your attention, which is nice.
For sure.
Each player also has a player board in front of them. This player board is going to show the 3 different factions. You're trying to move up each of these faction cards because they're worth victory points depending upon which column you end up at the end of the game. There's a place on the bottom to hold all of your figures before they get placed onto the board. You have a place for your Etheria. Etheria is kind of the energy within the world. You're going to use that Etheria to influence different things within the game. And you have a place to hold your Unity and what faction you are. Now, at the start of the game, we're each going to draw 3 ulterior motive cards, 1 from each of the 3 different factions. And in secret, we pick one of those cards and we place that card face down. This is going to serve a couple different purposes. Number 1, it tells you an end-game goal that only you know throughout the entire game. It's secret. The other thing is you're going to place in secret the faction token of whatever faction you picked face down. Once everyone's picked their ulterior motive card, everyone flips it up. This is the faction that you're representing. You can have guild figures from any faction through the course of the game, but you do get some benefits from having a very specific faction. The other thing that happens in turn order, once you pick your faction card, you're going to pick one of the starting Mourner cards. The Mourner cards are unique because they give you all kinds of special abilities through the course of the game. And again, in turn order, depending on the faction that you are, you get to pick from one of 4 different cards. These cards provide abilities, but they also provide you with a starting guild figure. I have someone from the, what is this name? This is a
The
weird
Council of Osteomancy.
Exactly. So I'm going to place this in my crypt because that's the card. This gives me a once per round ability. And then I mark this track across the bottom, giving me 1 presence in the Council of Osteomancy. And everyone does that in unison. All right.
Hey, well, which faction? You're Bone faction?
I'm the Bone faction, yeah.
I chose Flesh, actually, for mine.
I am Bone faction as well.
So we've got 2 bone, and I chose spirit. So we've got all the factions represented.
Each player is also going to start with 2 Etheria. The last couple components I'm going to talk about before we get into the game, the dice. The dice are used sometimes for combat, not in the area control combat, but with some combat you might do with the Wallows cards. They're also used in a very specific step within the game. And the way that the game gets its name from, there's all of these giant tarot-sized cards. These all represent the different kinds of generals within the game. You're going to draft these cards, and you're going to use them round after round to be able to do special abilities.
Yeah, you will get to know these guys because you use these same cards round after round, like Jeremy said, but you're going to be getting different ones. You're going to see some that synergize with some that you want to keep for your neighbor from getting, things like that.
Right. All right, so we've already done the basic setup here. Let's talk about the steps in the game. We'll actually play through this first round to show you how the game is played. The very first thing that happens is we picked a starting player, and that was me. And I get the death figure. The death figure is really cool because he does a couple different things. He makes you the first player, and he also breaks 1 tie in a specific location. So if I'm tied in one of these area control locations, I can break that in my favor just once per round, or one of the areas in the guilds across the bottom. Then the first player gets to roll an X number of dice. We have 4 players at the table, so we roll 4 dice. This is a contribution. Oh my goodness.
Wow,
you know
that
what?
is a
I should
big
be able to
roll.
roll this in any game that I play, but that's not the case here. That is 23. So we're going to throw 23 Etheria. I'll let you count there for a while. This is a divide and choose portion of the game. As the starting player, As the starting player, I get to divide these into a number of different sectors. It's the number of players plus 1. So what I'm trying to do here is make them as even as possible in one way, but also not give one player too much of a benefit. So we have 3, 6, 5, 5, 5, and 2. You know what? I'm going to take 1 from each of these and do this. All right. I broke it up, but I get to pick last. So you get to pick any one of those stacks. Now, you guys can go around and I'll explain what this does. So you go ahead and pick, you'll pick, and then I'll pick last. Whatever's left over is going to go into the Durf Forge. And this is something that will be affected by the Celestial Suspicion track at the end of the round. We'll explain as we get there.
Yeah.
How many are you going to pick, Ryan?
Well, I mean, I'm going to take the 5 because why not?
Of course.
Greedy.
Yep, that's me.
Well, and the round is young, so I will take
Yeah,
also 5.
Let's see. I believe I'm going to follow suit and take.
I don't know why I split
5.
it up. I should have put 5 in the last one. You know what? That's math and me trying to explain something at the same time. Everything that's left over is going to go into the Durf Forge, which is great for us as a group because there's a lot there to start at the very beginning of the game. All right, once we're done with that, we each get to draw randomly one of those Wallows cards. These Wallow cards are quests that you're trying to complete. We've already dealt these out. Everyone has one of these that they can complete anytime during their turn, basically during the action phase.
Yeah, it is one of the actions that you can take. There's a number of actions you can take on your turn, playing cards, making movements, and one of them is to complete that Wallows card.
Then we're going to divide up the Court of the Dead cards. Now, again, depending upon the number of players that are participating, each player is going to be randomly dealt an X number of cards. In a 4-player game, each player gets 3, and there's going to be a stack of cards left over. And we're going to draft these. In round 1, we're going to draft and pass to the left, and then round 2 to the right, and so forth until the game ends. So each player is going to pick one of their cards and simply keep it face down in front of them, and they're going to pass them to their left.
Like I said, you're going to be looking for some synergies
Oh,
between these cards, but also there are some nasty little cards in this game, and if you know players at the table who want to use nasty cards, you might want to keep them from them.
So give me Oglavale, as I can see your hands.
Ah!
All right. All right, once everyone has their hand of cards, we actually go into the actual action phase of the game itself. Now, there's a variety of different actions. We'll explain the actions as we go, because I'm sure some of us will pick different actions through the course of the game. One of the actions is to play a Court of the Dead card, and I will lead off with Death himself. I'm already the first player, which means I'm going to retain first player. And I get to pick any one of these two actions, the top action or the bottom action. And I think for this guy, I'm going to take two actions in a row. I'm going to do the bottom part. I'm going to move down the Celestial track and the Dread Script track 1.
Which
They're already at the bottom.
0, so.
I'm going to gain 1 of the victory points, because that's what it says here. And then it says I get to take 1 additional action this round. So I will go ahead and take another action, which means I will flip this over. I'm using my Mourner card. These Mourner cards are typically once per round. When you use them, you can either tap them or you can turn them upside down. This Mourner is called the Reaper Sheave, and it says that once per action phase, I can draw 1 Etheria into my pool, unless I'm the Bone faction, which I am, which lets me draw 2. So give me 2 of those. It's a lot of Etheria to have at the start of the game.
So
we
I'm-
rolled really well.
I'm actually also going to play a court card as my first action. This is Zial, the Great Osteomancer. So I lose an influence with the Bone faction, but I do get to draw a Bone faction card.
You get to draw 2.
I get to draw 2 and pick
one.
Pick one. So I'm going to choose this guy. He is from the Council of Osteomancy, so I get a council figure.
Again, one of the things is, just like the start of the game, anytime you take a Mourner card, they have an attached type of guild figure with them. You collect that guild figure and you put them into your crypt, and then you also affect the council down there, moving further to the right. Again, that's all area control down there as well, which gives you benefits.
So I drew this Mourner card, which my other Mourner says whenever I draw a Mourner card, I get 1 flesh influence. So that's great.
Nice.
However, this does also increase the Dread Script by 1 and gives me 2 Etheria. So if you could pass me 2 of that.
I don't know, we're going to run out of Etheria.
I was gonna say the same
Crazy
thing.
round.
It'll be a lot of drafting then of soldiers.
Yeah, what do you got, Nate?
Let's see. I think I'm going to go with Mortigol, who will give me 2 influence in the Bone track.
Nice.
You can always use influence, because influence is going to come into play when you start moving your guild and your faction members around the board.
Your turn.
I'm going to play Relic Ravlatch, and this is going to let me look at the top 2 Wallows cards and choose one to keep, and then I have to discard the other. So like Jeremy said at the beginning, we're all going to start each round with a Wallows card, but this is going to give me the opportunity to maybe accomplish a couple different ones. And I will take this one, because it synergizes well.
Nice. You know what? I'm going to do a recruit action. Am I the first one to do a recruit?
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's 2 different recruits. You can either recruit a guild figure directly onto your player or into your crypt, or you can recruit a Mourner card for a little bit more Etheria. The only trick is you know exactly what you're drafting with the guild card. This is potluck for the most part. So I'm going to spend 5, which is how much it costs to recruit one. This just goes back into the pool. It also moves up the Dread Script track, because you're making more attention to Heaven and Hell. And give me 2 bone guys, if you will.
2 bone guys. All right.
I get to select one of these, and again, add whatever guild figure to my thing and affect the track down below. So you go ahead and go while I do this. Oh, you know what? I'm going to interrupt you. This says anytime I gain a bone guy this round, I get to roll a die and gain half that many on my influence track. So,
Oh, nice. That was your Wallows card.
So 1.
well, that's
Round it up, so
that's,
you get
that's a
1.
whopping 1. Why couldn't I rolled my 5s and 6s
No
before?
kidding.
Worth.
All right, I will pick.
I mean, that worked out
Ryan,
well for me.
what are you going to do?
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play another court card, Gethsemane, the Queen of the Dead. This card comes at an Etheria cost, so I have to pay 2.
Thank
So
you
if
for
you
the
wouldn't
night.
mind taking that from me.
Yep.
This gives me a bone card. So I draw 2, choose 1. I'll take this guy here, which if you remember, whenever I draw a Mourner card, I gain 1 flesh influence, which is great. So I need another Council of Osteomancy figure, which is going to move me up right there.
There you are, sir.
Great. And again, I have to some more abilities for this one. I'm also going to steal 1 flesh from influence from someone. Let's steal it from Nate, actually. Let's pick on the new guy a little.
Flesh?
bit.
Welcome to the group.
Yeah.
Nate.
Ugh.
Welcome to
It's sore a little bit.
And
Welcome
this
to Man versus
also
Meeple.
increases the Dread's grip, so that's going up. We're going to need to watch this a little bit.
All right.
All right, Nate, what's next for you?
All right. So I am going to play X-Rail. And I'm going to use it for its bottom ability, where I will spend 2 resources of one type to go, or influence, to go up 3 of a different type.
Oh, nice. Just a little exchange.
Yes.
All right. Well, I am not going to play a court card. I'm actually going to use one of my mourners, or my only mourner, actually. Long Grief and the Forlorn Choir. This one's going to, once per action phase, I may add a Etheria to the Dirthforge. However, if I'm part of the Spirit faction, which I am, I can add 2 to the Dirthforge, plus that gets me 1 unity. I'm a big fan of simple engines that get me points, and that's why I chose that
You're
card.
a big fan of victory points.
Yes,
in
I am a
general.
fan of victory
I
points.
can get behind that.
All right. I think Aragast is my choice here. All right, he's going to move up the Celestial track 1. I get to select any player to contribute 2 Etheria to the pool, and you're sitting on 3 guys, so I'm going to make you contribute 2. But guess what? We both gain a victory point.
All right.
Boom.
Now, we didn't mention this earlier, but we've just put a bunch of Etheria into the Dirthforge. Once we get to the Celestial Suspicion track at the end of the round, we're all going to be contributing. All of this in the Dirthforge is really going to help us out as a group.
That's right.
I'm going to pay 1 bone influence and slide that guy down into that bottom location there, number 5. Yep.
There you go. Yeah, remember, we've been recruiting a lot of these guys, but they haven't gotten out onto the board until just now.
Yeah, let's explain that real quick. You're the first person to move anybody out. To move people onto the board, you have to spend the type of faction influence of the people that you're moving out. He just moved a bone person, which means he has to move his bone faction down once. You have to do that for every single figure you move. And you can only move from one location to another. So you can't move a guy from here to here and a guy from over there to somewhere else.
Right.
You can when it comes back around to you, but not in one action.
All right, I haven't been moving my characters because I've been saving my influence, because I now have 6 bone influence,
Oh, wow.
which allows me to recruit one of the knights.
Nice.
Whoa, that's
So
a nice...
knight for orange. Oh, he just bumped it up again. That's not what I wanted to see. All right.
There's my wallows.
All right. So I am going to... You know, Jeremy just mentioned that you have to spend influence to move, unless you have this card. And that's Galavibre. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that correctly.
She's
I'm
the eyes of the
probably
queen.
Barbie.
Just say the eyes of the
The
queen.
eyes of the queen, and she's going to let me complete a movement without any of that cost. So I'm going to take this person and move them right out here to this location, location 8.
My guess is you have to be there for a quest.
Perhaps,
It doesn't
perhaps.
make a whole lot of sense otherwise. All right, I will spend 2 bone influence to move my 2 guys to Voxengard.
Nice. Well, I am at the location I need to be to attempt my Wallows card. This is a battle with a Raykar that is attacking that specific location. So I am going to battle this creature, which means I take one of these dice and roll it. I need a 4, 5, or 6 to defeat it. However, I can use my Etheria to increase my die roll, and I get to use it after I roll, which is nice. So you're not really gambling.
Nice.
Roll a 1. Roll a 1.
Let's see what happens
Roll a
here.
1.
Boom!
You know what?
Spend it.
I've got it. I'll spend the 3.
Spend it.
I'll spend the 3. I will beat it. So I defeat the Drakkar. I get
An
an Osteomancer, and the Dread script goes down by 1.
Yeah, so there's a
There's a
lot of
myth.
ways to mitigate, I mean, especially with the Etheria, the dice rolling, and there's not a lot of dice chucking in this game. The combat's very deterministic,
Yeah.
and the dice really come into play very little.
Right.
So I'm going to play Shard now. I'm going to Shard, which moves down on the
Dread script.
Dread script
That's
track.
awesome. Great.
moves up on the Celestial track.
You get a
Gives
unity,
me-
which again is
one
a
of
victory
these.
point.
and then I get an influence of my choice. So I'll take one of those.
Oh, nice.
Well done.
Reclaim my missing flesh
Right.
influence.
All right, I am going to go ahead and recruit. I think it's about time. But I'm going to do it with a Mourner card. So I'm going to spend 5 Etheria.
1 Dread's Grip.
1 Dread's Grip goes up. And
And
could
what are
I
you
get
drawing
2
from?
of the Spirit, please?
Spirit.
2 spirit. Yes,
After
you
all,
can.
that's
There you go.
how I roll
Ooh,
this
does have Spirit.
game. I am going to choose the Minder's Bind
All right.
to add. So I need one
What
of
group?
these
What faction
figures
is that?
here.
That is the Grave Dancer Circle.
Yes.
All right, I'm sorry, Nate. We're picking on the new guy.
Aw.
But I have to spend 1 bone faction to get rid of your knighthood guy
You're
permanently.
just taking them out?
He's gone.
Just taking him right out.
And the reason why I did that, I'm just going to explain to you guys right now. Unless he gets another guy, I'm going to break that tie because I have death. Even though we're both
This
at
guy's
one.
the executioner, so I guess that doesn't make sense.
Uncle Vale's mean.
Feels bad.
Should have drafted him.
All right, I want to send
better
a
next
guy
time.
out. So let's spend 1 spirit. Throw this guy out
I
here.
feel like Ryan's cheating. He's got 4 dudes already and 3 more.
Yeah,
cards.
he.
I do. I
We'll have
drew.
to
I
keep an
drew.
eye on
I drafted 2 cards that both drew me Mourner cards.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's my fault. I shouldn't pass him to you.
All right.
I took death though.
That's yeah. That's you
take death.
cannot take death.
My turn now. So I will spend. I will spend 3 actually
Oh, you're doing it, aren't you? He's doing it.
to take back my knight.
Oh,
And that moves up the dreads grip.
Constantly.
so that goes up more and
Reclaiming
more on
my-
the Mourner's knighthood.
now he wins it again. So I kind of wasted my turn. But
Yes, you could do the same thing. Keep it going. Keep the
I can't.
competition.
Oglavale's
But then he
done.
can't submit to
Oglavale's
the.
done.
You could recruit another.
I could, But
All right, so
I
things
need
are
this for
options are running out a little bit here, but I am going to get this person out onto the board. So I'm going to do a movement action. I'm going to take my influence on my spirit down 1 and bring this person out to the Dearth Forge.
Nice.
I'm passing.
All right. Well,
So let me talk about that real quick. So if you
Yeah.
pass, you're not necessarily out of the round. The round ends when all 4 players pass in a row. So I could come back in.
you know what? Here's what I'm going to do, actually. I'm going to play my guy, my last court card. It's Malavestros, the Fool. I get to deactivate 1 Mourner card from each player. So you've only got 1, so he deactivates.
No.
You've only got 1, so he deactivates. Actually, you've only got 1,
only
so
have
go
1.
ahead and deactivate.
Yeah, learn right
This
now
is a
to not
mean
like
card.
Malavestros.
Yeah.
Right.
No, he either deactivates cards or deactivates
figure.
locations.
So if you want to be a jerk like Ryan, you choose that card and you punish everybody at the table.
Yeah.
But that's part of this game, right?
Yeah.
Malavestros is also represented by a mini, so he can, as his other option, go into an area and deactivate a
Yep.
spot.
Come out onto the board. So for my action, I'm going to spend 3 more to further.
Oh.
Oh,
Nate's
lock
building up an
down
army.
this-
he's got a whole army
This
of
set.
knights right there.
Yeah.
Interesting, interesting, interesting. Okay, so for my turn, I'm actually going to take a look at one of my Wallows cards, and I'm going to do the fight as well. So I am in this location 8,
Roll a 1.
and I need to roll. I'm not rolling a 1.
Roll
It
one.
worked-
You're not
it
gonna
worked when I
whammy
rolled
me.
it.
I rolled
4.
a 4.
Yeah,
4
that's
does
good.
it. So I defeat the Raker. I get 2 Spirit Influence, 1,
Nice.
2, and 1 down on the Dread's Grip.
Very
Remember,
nice.
you can always influence this with Etheria. So Etheria is used for a variety of
I'll
different
take your
things in
Wallace
the
card,
game.
David.
All right. I'm still in passing phase, so I pass.
I'm going to spend 1 influence from the Flesh faction and throw that guy out there.
Okay.
I'm going to spend 1 to move this guy out here.
All right. Well, guess what? I have another
I
Wallows
have another
card.
Wallace card.
And I can do it. I have to have 2 of my guild members in at least 2 spirit locations, which I do. That's where I've placed. And that is going to allow me to get this artifact, which is a cool Wallows card. This artifact is something that's going to be in front of me for the rest of the game. I gain 2 unity if anyone plays a shard court card
That was
throughout
the
the game.
lady that
Oh, it
you
already
play, right?
happened.
Yep.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I guess I've got a little bit more to go. So spend 1, put this guy out here.
All right.
All right. So I'm going to spend 1 as well. And I will put this guy out here.
Interesting.
I am going to play my last court card. And this is Kalakil, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm going to use the bottom part. It's going to just get me 2 more spirit influence. I'm going to go heavy with that strategy.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll play a good round. I'm passing again.
I am also passing at this point.
And I will spend my last influence to go here. as well.
Wow.
control.
Nate's making some last minute moves here.
I know.
I'm going to pass. Is there anything else you can do?
Yeah, I've got Etheria, but I want to keep it. All right, I'll pass.
I am not going to pass, actually. Let's go ahead and just spend this flesh. I'll move my guy over to here.
Okay.
If Nate's going to take that spot, I'm just going to get out of there.
Makes sense.
I am picking that spot. So I'll move my guy then.
I'm going to pass.
I pass.
I got nothing left to do. I pass.
And I'll pass.
All right, so 4 more phases left in this round. The first one is the Dread Script threat. Now, this is kind of Heaven and Hell's look at us affecting the board. As this marker moves up, it's going to tell us how many guild figures can remain in each of these locations. Fortunately, it's 3, and we haven't broken that rule. However, if we did break the rule, a couple things happen. We have to roll a die for every single figure in those locations, even if they're just your figures.
Yeah, it's not really a battle between your factions. It's just everyone has to survive or not.
Yeah.
Right.
Survive the gods.
So 3 different outcomes. 1, if you roll a 3 through a 6, nothing happens. You get to stay in that location and reap the benefits of it. If you roll a 2, that figure is going to actually be bounced back to your personal crypt. If you roll a 1, that's the worst thing.
That's not good.
You're going to lose your ring, put it back in your supply, and then this is going to go back to the guild figure supply. So we skipped that because nothing happens this round. We didn't make too much dread script go around this round. So next one is the Celestial Suspicion. This is where everybody has to contribute. In addition, the Dearth Forge is also going to contribute the Etheria they have. Now, how much we have to contribute is affected by this track. This is telling us where this marker is. It's 3 plus the number of players at the
So
at the
7
table.
right now.
But we have 8 in here, which means that we don't have to contribute anything, and we'll still be fine, except there's 3 different things that can happen here. If you contribute the most, you gain 3 victory points, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
If you contribute anything at all but don't contribute the most, you get 1 victory point. If you contribute nothing, you lose a victory point, and you also have to lose 1 of your influence on 1 of your 3 tracks. So you want to contribite something. This is where Etheria comes into play the most. So everyone has to reveal how much they have left.
I
got 2.
2. I have 3. So I
Yeah.
can win this straight up if I want.
I'm sure he's going to.
Yeah, so if Jeremy's going to win this, we might just
Bid 1.
bid 1, but
Yeah,
we'll see.
well, we'll see.
3.
I bid 1.
Why'd you bid
2.
2?
I knew
I
you were going to
did.
bid 3. You might not have bid 2.
Everything goes
I
back
thought
to the
you might
supply. I gain 3 victory points. Ryan, you gain 1.
Yeah, I got 1 for contributing.
All right,
Thank
so
you.
just get added. Remember, your unity is actually the length of the game. So when that runs out, it's
you.
gone.
Yeah.
All right, we've done both the tracks. Next, we have to resolve all these different locations. Every single location in the game has a number, and we will do these from lowest to highest number. So the first one is the Dearth Forge.
That
Whoever
is
controls
me.
it
I
gains 3.
control it, and I gain 3 Etheria.
Nice.
Next here is Orange.
That's me.
You, Nate.
-1 on the dread script.
Yep.
That's nice.
1 on your influence
choice.
track of your choice, a unity, and 1 up on the celestial track. Now, if you're tied in any of these locations, no one wins. However, if you own death, you get to break 1 tie and 1 tie only for that entire round. That's in any one of these locations or any of the Underworld Guild locations, which we'll take care of in a moment. All right, you've done this one. Next, we go down here.
Yeah, I get 2 different. So 1 here and 1 here.
All right, over here, you gain a guild figure of your choice. Go ahead and put
get a
him in
knight.
your crypt. All right,
It's
so we're
gonna
going
raise. It's gonna drop the celestial or raise the celestial. Sorry.
the dread
There's the
script.
dread
The
script.
Dread Script.
Oh,
All right,
here, here, yep.
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 and then 6, nothing.
And 4 we skipped.
Oh, we skipped 4. 2 of the
That's
same.
2 the same. There we
All
go.
right. Skip
6 and
6
7,
and
no one's
7.
there.
7.
8. I get 1 spirit influence for each spirit faction piece out on the board or in the game. That's 2.
2 right there.
So I'm going to go up 2 more.
I picked Voxengard up here, and it's +1 for every bone. And we have
Oof,
9
man, we
bone.
all went bone, yeah.
So I'm going to go up to 9.
Dang.
It's great.
That is a lot of influence.
I don't think
It
he's
is.
keeping that next
And
round.
then, meanwhile, I get 1 for every flesh faction.
Wow, there's
A
one of
whopping
those.
1.
Enjoy that.
All right.
Nice. All right. This says to bounce back your guy
Yeah,
to your
I will
crypt.
do that. I'll bounce. This is optional too, by the way, but I will bounce my guy back.
You get to move this down one.
I get 1 spirit influence and 1 unity.
And the Celestial Suspicion
That's
track
right.
goes up.
And I'm going to do it again. I'm going to bounce this guy back.
It
so
goes back down.
So he's got a balanced approach.
and 1 more victory point. Yeah, I kind of balanced myself out there.
That was a nice grab of victory points, though.
Yeah.
So we are done with the map. Now we have to go down to the Underworld Guilds. And again, these will happen from left to right. Whoever is furthest right in each of these tracks.
well,
these again represent the different types of
we know
factions
who's
in the
winning.
guilds. Yeah, that's pretty apparent. You're going to gain 3 Etheria from the first spot. The second spot, you get to gain 2 of your choice.
Yeah, I'll do that. 1 here and 1 here.
And again, remember, your influence is your victory points at the end of the game. So not only are you using it to move around and giving up victory points, but you're gaining it back through control.
The next spot is the Dreadsbane order. No one's there this round, but this is an interesting thing. If you have that, you're going to get the Dreadsbane token. This basically makes you immune to the Dread's Grip threat when
Yeah,
bad
you
things
can have as
happen
many
over there.
figures, but you can still trigger it
Yes.
for other people to have to suffer, but you won't suffer the effect.
It's pretty awesome. Grave Dancer Circle.
I have that one.
All right.
So that's going to move the Dread's Grip down 1
Yep.
and
point.
gain 1 unity.
The next is a Conclave, which no one has, but that would allow you to remove a figure from the board. The other one is to grab a guild figure.
Yeah, I will. I'm actually going to take one of those Dreadsbane Order figures,
Probably a
the
good
green
move.
ones.
Oh, the green ones.
And you
These
get
guys.
to put him onto your crypt.
Yep.
And this is going to move you up to slot number
There we
1.
are, yep.
All right, we are done resolving the locations and the guild. The next is the cleanup. Everyone who has turned over cards, thanks to Ryan, gets to now flip these up to be able
And
to
some
be
of these,
used.
if you had them active, will give you bonuses.
I
Like
didn't.
this guy gives me 2 bone at the end of the
Yeah,
cleanup
I
phase.
had one that would have given me something during cleanup, but you flipped it over.
All of your Etheria is going to stay, all your markers are going to stay, all your guys on the board are going to stay, and you're simply going to start a new round with the player who is in charge of death. You're going to go through that multiple times until all of the Unity tokens have been distributed to the players.
Yeah.
So, we'll finish up the game, and we'll come back on the couch.
Yeah, leave a comment who you think is going to win.
Yeah, we're going to add things up. We'll let you know who won. It's not going to be Nate.
No.
We'll definitely let you know who lost. But we'll do all that on the couches and tell you what our whole experience was like.
Catch you guys soon.
So welcome back. We are not at the table anymore, but we did play the rest of the game. And I'll just say right now, I'm sorry to say, I lost.
Not only did you lose, but you came in last place.
I did. No, that's what I
Yeah,
mean.
you
That
lost.
is losing. That
Yeah,
is
you
losing.
lost in the worst way.
definitely
Anything
know.
north of last for me is a win.
I don't know. Second place is last place for me. So this is unique. We've played this game. Nate,
Yep.
this is your first experience, but
Yeah.
the first game we played was 3, almost 4 rounds. This was 2 rounds.
Two rounds.
We burned through
Yeah,
those
we
Unity tokens really quick.
I think a lot of people had combos that were getting Unity tokens, and we hit that script every time. And we got, in a 4-player game, you're giving out a ton of victory points for that.
Yeah, it brings up a really interesting point about this game is because for the kind of game it is, it's about the fastest area control game with a lot of things going on that I've ever played.
It's deceiving because when you first play these type of games, like your Blood Rages and your Rising Suns, like those are like 2-hour affairs to get through. You would think the same when you're playing this game, but it's fast. I mean, it is lightning fast when you play it.
Yeah, and I would say even if it plays 3 rounds, which I'm guessing is probably the average, I can't imagine it going over 4.
No.
But let's say it plays 2, 3, or 4 rounds. All the things that you do at any given at the end of any given round, those are only going to happen like twice, maybe 3 times.
Right.
So you can't like round up the scoring. Oh, okay, next time I'll do this, and then maybe I'll score this many, and then the next round, and the next round. It's only going to happen once or twice, or twice or 3
That
times.
puts it right along some of the more popular games out, like Blood Rage is only 3 rounds, and Rising Sun is only 3 rounds. So this fits in nicely. You could kind of slow play this game out, and you can make it go into 4 rounds if you like. Maybe you want to get your engine going a little better, but 2 to 3 rounds is probably what you're going to see.
I think part of what helped us score so quickly was that everyone had presence on the board, like distributed all across the board.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of conflict,
And
right?
like in Blood Rage, for example, usually you don't have every area claimed right away, and then you move in when attacks are happening or when you're harvesting or whatever. But in here, it's like everyone's getting something at the end of the round. And
Yeah, we played nice, I guess, a little bit
Yeah.
in the first round, because at the end of the first round, we weren't even setting off the Dread's Grip.
No.
That's
Which
true.
can be different. That was very different in the first
In our
game that
3-player
we
game,
played.
we were tied. There was there was a round where I don't think we really activated any spaces because everyone was tied. Nobody wanted to let anybody get anything. We were a little friendlier.
Yeah, the cool
this
thing you have to
time.
remember about the way the Dread's Grip works is before you activate all the different locations and their benefits, that Dread's Grip is going to fire off. So you could potentially just send one little guy into an area where you
create
have
havoc.
3,
Create havoc.
Right.
For
create
everybody.
havoc, and potentially walk away with being the person that gets the
Yeah,
benefit.
you
And that
can't
did
talk
kinda
about the
happen,
Dread's Grip around me right now.
No,
Because
me
I'm gonna
neither.
have nightmares about the 2 1s
Double
that I
ones.
rolled during that game. Double ones.
I rolled
Lost
ones the
both
same
my
time.
guys.
swung the balance on the one of
Couldn't
the
believe it. I
territories.
lost 2 guys right then.
Yeah, man, you got to put that in context. So the Dread's Grip is cool. You guys were in positions to win spots, and you
Yep.
just with bad rolls. In that case, you lost.
Yeah.
I
it can
could've
come-
lost
it
one
makes
guy
for
and be
some
okay, but-
exciting moments for sure.
Yeah. I love the Mourners cards. Like
Yeah.
we've played with the stack of them. We know that we probably know that there's going to be more with stretch goals with the Kickstarter, but those really make the game because they're so variable in the way that they interact with your turn. Because they basically are. Most of them are basically actions that you can flip over to do something.
Or end of turn benefits that might combo with each other.
Yeah, they add a lot of flavor. I also think the Wallows cards for me add a lot of flavor because of anything in the game, I think the Wallows cards offers a lot of world building for this universe that I'm not really familiar with. But all of those feel like, okay, there's something going on in this territory, so I have to get to that territory. I'm going to fight this thing. It makes it feel like there's a little bit more of a narrative.
It gives you a little focus too,
Well,
to target something. You
Definitely. And I get totally focused on those Wallows cards. I couldn't not do those.
There's like 12 locations, and you kind of look at the board. You're like, I don't know what I want to do. But if you have a card that says go to this location, you're like, oh, okay, I'll just go there.
That brings up you make a good point too about the IP itself. I think most people playing this game aren't going to be familiar with it, but I think the Mourner cards and the way that the court cards play out really brings you gradually into this universe in a way that things make sense. Like the Executioner guy kills somebody on the board. The Spirit Guide increases your spirit track. Like it kind of pairs well mechanically.
There's two things I noticed too the second time around, how important Etheria is in the game. Like I didn't realize like the die roll at the very beginning of the round may sound insignificant, but it really influences the way that you play your round. Because if you don't have a lot of it, you're not going to be moving people around the board at will and introducing new characters in, or even recruiting more mourners or recruiting new guild figures. But also, for me, it was really important at the end of the round too, because I was able to win those bids for the Celestial track and gain 3 victory points every single time.
Yeah, that was a difference.
Which was awesome.
The first round that you guys saw, we had, 23
Yeah.
Etheria?
It was a monster roll.
23 Etheria, and I think in the second one we had maybe 15, which you didn't see.
Yeah.
That makes a big difference.
It makes
there was
a huge
only
difference.
A few Etheria in the
I think we each got 3.
Yeah, and we each got 3, so it was a very different game that played out that way.
And it affected like how much we could recruit new members into our armies and get new mourners, and affected the whole round.
It's kind of weird, and it is super swingy in that you can go anywhere from 4 to 18 Ethereum on that roll in a 4-player game.
Oh, could you imagine rolling
4-player 24?
Yeah, 24. Sorry. And I think you'd think like, oh, that's huge, like a huge difference, but it just changes the way you play the game drastically.
Absolutely.
And it's not necessarily punishing to roll low numbers.
Well, everyone's affected by it.
Right, everyone's affected equally, and it just means you have to play a little different strategy that round.
Yeah, you'd have to change things up quite a bit because it would really affect your ability to get Mourner cards.
Yeah.
You'd have to maybe change up and just take a faction, one of the units instead of a Mourner card.
And I think that's why probably a good reason why our game went 2 rounds is we did have that crazy roll on the first round, so we were just basking in
and it was
it.
So
It
was in retrospect, my ulterior motive was I got 4 points for every Spirit Mourner card that I'd had at the end. And I got a little sidetracked at times. I could have probably bought at least one more in the game. I know there was a moment that I could have, and I decided not to. Now, I may have foregone some other points there, but it might have been another 4 points for me. And we haven't covered the scores, right? Like you had 35.
33,
I
31,
had 31,
29.
And I had 29.
Nate actually, new guy won this.
New guy won. Last time you'll be seeing Nate on the show. No, but what's really cool about that is we scored a lot of points a lot of different ways, and we were all within 2 of each other. You know, there's not a big spread there, which was very interesting.
Like what, 6 points from last to first?
Because you got like 4 mourners, right?
I had 4 mourners, but unfortunately, they were just so drastically different that I couldn't really get a synergy going between my 4 cards, which last game we played, I think I had 4 or 5 that just worked
perfectly together.
So well together, and I won the first game because I was able to combo those.
But I had 1 in contrast. I was
you only had 1 Mourner.
Bare bones, like just getting a bunch of soldiers out. So that's all I did.
The other thing I'll mention, 2 things I'll mention. One, you were mentioning the ulterior motive that you're trying to get. That are just like in-game victory points. I like those carrots. Like I think there's enough carrots in this game where you trying to complete stuff, but you see someone taking advantage of something that's really useful, so it leads you to direct conflict with those players. The other thing I really like about this game is that at the end of the round, it's really about positioning to get into those locations on the map and on the guild. So it's really cool that there's a very hard dichotomy between the victory points that you're saving up on those tracks, because those are a huge amount of victory points, especially as you scale up further to the right, but also giving up your victory points to be able to get into positions to get like very small benefits, but you have to kind of math it out in your head to say, if I give up this many victory points, what am I really gaining from it? And that's a cool aspect to the game that I like.
Well, and that brings up another point for me, the choices that you make in the game. Starting with the court cards, which are double use. You can use the top action or the bottom action. But there's just a lot of opportunities throughout the game to make tough decisions. One of the court cards I found interesting, who used Malavestros? You did.
I did.
In the first round that everyone saw. You used it to shut down Mourner cards. I had it in the next round, and I used it to shut down a location that Jeremy had abused in the first round. Jeremy was there in the second round, and Ryan took a bunch of his guys there. I placed the Malavestros figure there. It basically shut that down, so if anyone won it, no one's going to get the benefit. So then everyone evacuated, which
spawned a couple more war zones in different areas.
it spawned more war zones. These guys had to spend some influence to move out of there. But it's an interesting choice that you have to make for just about everything.
The last thing I'll say, too, was I was very concerned the first time we played the game about the Dreadsbane token because of how powerful it was. And even Death, how powerful they were. This game, I had Death the entire game. It didn't affect the outcome once.
You didn't have tiebreakers.
And
right?
Because I avoided you.
Yeah, and then the Dreadsbane token never took effect this game.
Nobody even went down
it was
that
one of my
track.
early concerns, and this game it didn't get affected at all, which is great. It means there's balance within the game.
I think you're going to find games where people abuse that token, and that's
if it
going to
comes
happen.
into play, again, it's all about what happens in positioning yourself that round. The dice could be weird one round, and it affects your game completely, but it affects everybody at the table.
Well, and you have to change things up. Like I've said before, you can't let someone abuse things in this game.
No.
If someone gets something going, you can't just play your own little game in a game like this. I mean, that goes without saying with these types of games. With this one in particular, if someone abused something in the first round, you cannot let them do that in the second round. You have to put forth some effort to stop
When you
them.
see somebody's like engine running and you realize they're pulling in a ton of those Unity, it's like...
Well, they're quick engines, too. These are not long engines. The game's 2 to 3 rounds. So if someone gets a little engine going that's like, whoa, what's going on there? You can't get to it later. You got to do something about it now.
Yep.
And I also liked how there's a freedom of movement. Like it wasn't punishing to move. Like the last round, we spent like 4 or 5 go-arounds with everyone just kind of moving pieces around on the board.
That
it
is an
really
interesting...
isn't that painful to do.
No, it's
It
not
isn't,
painful.
but you're still spending victory points to
Right.
move,
You
which
have to evaluate
it's
that.
something you have to decide. Am I like you drop? I think at one point from like 10 to 6 to 3. So if you're about to drop from 10 to 6, it's like, am I going to get 4 victory points out of this move?
Yeah.
So suffice it to say, we all had a really exciting time playing the game. It was a lot of fun and amazingly close. I mean, like I said, 35, 33, 31, 29. So really tight game considering all the things that you're doing in this thing. We had a lot of fun. So that was Court of the Dead Mourners Call. This is from Project Raygun, Sideshow Collectibles. Remember about the contest. We're going to be giving away one of these statues to someone who comments somehow.
Yep.
And check us out next time.